I hope you all have one where you are. I'm going to stand. You don't have to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting has been noticed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. 15 days prior to this hearing, a public hearing notice was printed in the Post and Courier, a sign was posted on the designated properties, and a notice was mailed to the applicant or representative, property owner, and to property owners within 300 feet of the applications, and to parties of interest. Persons, organizations, and the news media that have requested declaration of our meeting have also been notified. The Freedom of Information Act does not require notification of anyone other than the applicant and parties of interest. The board members who will hear your case tonight are David Savage, our vice chair, Roy Smith, Amy Fabry, and Corey Hipp. Staff members present are Kristen Crane, our planning director. Flannery Wood is in town hall. She's our planner too. Bo Wilson, our attorney. Francis Simmons, secretary to the BZA and our town clerk. And I would like to make special notice of our new town administrator, Nikki Grimble. We'd like to give you a warm welcome, and we're so glad that you're here. Board members, the minutes from the March 15th meeting was included in your packets. Are there any changes? If not, may I have a motion to approve and a second?
Move to approve.
Okay, Amy makes a motion to approve, and looks like Corey's raising her hand to second. Is that correct?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Our case rulings and minutes from this and any BZA meeting are available for public review and inspection during normal business hours at Town Hall. I'd like to thank Frances for her hard work on the minutes. She does a great job. Thank you so much, Frances. At this time, I would like to explain to the public the workings of the BZA. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial body established to interpret and grant relief from the Zoning and Land Development Regulations Ordinance. The Board of Zoning Appeals has jurisdiction over three types of cases: appeals, variances, and special exceptions. Variances may be granted when strict application of the zoning ordinance would cause an unnecessary hardship. This board's actions must be based on specific standards as contained in the South Carolina Local Government Planning Enabling Act of 1994 and the Town of James Island Zoning and Land Development Regulations Ordinance. A simple majority vote of the quorum present is required to grant a variance and a special exception. It must be understood that the rules of your neighborhood or subdivision are binding, and we can take no action that will negate their jurisdiction over your property. Our purpose tonight is for interested parties to be heard in order to assist the board in gathering evidence pertinent to each case. If the members of the BZA feel the need for further information to clarify a case, the board has the authority to subpoena witnesses. In addition to your testimony, our board has been presented written information submitted to the staff by the applicant or their agent for each case. This information is now considered to be evidence and is entered into the permanent record of this body. It is assumed that it is complete, true, and accurate. Also, we have been presented data assembled by the staff for the purpose of clarifying the location and the effect on surrounding property. Our board is empowered to approve with conditions, or to deny your request. We are also authorized to defer a case should there be a need to obtain additional information. If an applicant's request is disapproved and they wish to appeal the decision of this board concerning their case, appeals must be addressed to the circuit court. South Carolina Code 6-29-820 states that the appeal must be filed by the applicant within 30 days after the decision of the board is mailed to them. Failure to file an appeal within the time limit deprives the court of the jurisdiction to hear the matter. Because this is a quasi-judicial body, everything said in this meeting must be complete, true, and accurate. All of the information provided to the BZA is considered evidence, and this board may certify contempt of circuit court if false statements are made, either in writing or orally. If at any time a board member feels it is necessary to go into executive session for legal advice, a motion can be made to add executive session to the agenda. If seconded and passed, then a motion would be made to go into executive session. This motion must state the reason. If seconded and passed, we would then go into executive session.
Brooke, the cat turned off your volume. Start stopping up about executive session.
I'm so sorry. That was Bobcat. As I was saying, if seconded and passed, we would then go into executive session to discuss the issue, and no votes would be taken in executive session. At this time, each person who wishes to address the board must be sworn in. In order to expedite the procedure, those wishing to speak in person at Town Hall and on Zoom, will you please stand as a group? Mr. Wilson, our town attorney, will administer the oath at this time to those of you who wish to speak. Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Brooke. Please raise your right hand.
I think you're muted, Bo.
Am I muted?
No, I hear
No,
you.
is it me?
Yeah. Everybody but Brooke can hear me.
Mhm.
It must be your volume, maybe it's your volume.
Got it. Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Speak out your response, please.
I do.
Thank you. You are so sworn.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson. To those who would like to speak, if you would like to address the board and participating by Zoom, please use the chat function to state your name and whether you're in support of opposition, and you will be called on to speak at the appropriate time. If anyone is called in and would like to speak, you will be recognized by your phone number and called upon when the time comes. So at this time, I will call each case by file number. Staff will present facts pertinent to the case with unlimited time. I shall then call the applicant to address the case, limited to 10 minutes. The applicant shall please state their name and current address for the record before presenting testimony. I will then ask for all those speaking in support of the case that are present in Town Hall to stand up one by one, state their name and address for the record, and they are limited to 2 minutes each. I will then ask for anyone wishing to speak in support who are on Zoom to please wait until their name is called to speak. I will then ask for all those speaking in opposition and are present at Town Hall to do the same. I will follow the same procedure for those on Zoom who wish to speak in opposition.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
pardon the interruption. I would like to make a motion before you read the cases that we hear case ending 029 prior to the 028 case, if we hear them in reverse.
Okay. I'm sorry, I wasn't quite finished reading this, Ms. Fabry. That's okay, but if you'll just hold that and I'll get to it. I was going to actually ask Flannery to mute Town Hall because it was a little distracting. I don't know if y'all could hear the feedback. I'm almost through. The applicant will then have a chance to reply to any opposition, limited to 2 minutes, and then the BZA will make a motion to close the case to the public. Finally, the BZA will make a motion concerning the application, stating findings of fact and conclusions of law. And I have finished my statement, Ms. Fabry. Sorry, I did need to legally read that. So if you could please restate your motion.
Yes, thank you. I would like to make a motion that we hear case ending in 029 prior to 028, that we hear them in the reverse order, please.
So 029 is the case that addresses the double drive-through, and 028 is the case that addresses the tree removal. And I will second that for discussion. Is there any discussion on that?
Mm-mm. I think it's a
Okay.
good idea.
Okay. Ms. Simmons, will you take a roll call vote on that? Ms. Fabry has made a motion to reverse the order of the cases as on the agenda, and here the case with the double drive-through before the case of the tree removal. It was seconded by Commissioner Lyon.
Commissioner Fabry,
Aye.
Commissioner Hip,
Aye.
Vice Chair Savage,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Chairwoman Lyon.
Aye. So the motion passes unanimously. So at this time, so we will hear the case with the double drive-through first. That would be case number BZAS-3-22-029. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to our Planning Director, Kristen Crane.
Thank you. I don't know why it says host has disabled screen sharing.
Kristen, I just updated a setting. See if it'll allow you to share it now.
Okay. Yes, there we go. Thank you. All righty. The applicant, Mr. Michael White of G. Robert George and Associates, representing Chick-fil-A, is requesting a variance for the construction of a double drive-through at an existing Chick-fil-A restaurant in the Community Commercial Zoning District and in the commercial core of the Folly Road Corridor Overlay District at 849 Folly Road. The property currently has 2 buildings, including a Chick-fil-A restaurant built in 2006 and an accessory building utilized for training and storage. The parcel is 1.48 acres in size and is considered a legal conforming lot. Adjacent property to the west is zoned low-density suburban residential in the town, and adjacent property to the south is zoned CC in the town. To the east is property zoned general business in the city of Charleston, and other uses within 300 feet of the subject property include retail, sales, repair service, restaurants, retail and personal service, vehicle service, recreation and entertainment, outdoor, and parcels in the town of James Island that are zoned RSL. The Town of James Island Zoning and Land Development Regulations Ordinance, Section 153.336D2C, Architectural and Landscape Design Guidelines state that only single-lane drive-throughs are allowed. Multi-lane drive-throughs are only allowed for banks or similar financial institutions, post office, or utilities. The applicant's letter of intent states that Chick-fil-A intends to make site improvements to the existing site located at 849 Folly Road and will expand the site to include an adjacent parcel of land located at 831 Folly Road, north of the existing CFA site. The purpose of these improvements will be to increase the stacking capacity of the drive-through operation and improve traffic flow. The proposed site improvements will require a variance to allow the construction of double stacking lanes for the drive-through operation. The subject property is currently owned by Harris N. Cohen and is leased and utilized by Chick-fil-A. And I'll just go through some pictures of the subject property. Oh, am I on the wrong one? Sorry. Do that again. Nope. Here's adjacent property. The picture on the left is the Verizon Shopping Center to the south. And the picture on the left is the property they are looking to lease on the north. Adjacent property to the east across Folly Road, and the west, the residential property behind. And looking down Folly Road, east and west. According to section 153.049F, the board has the authority to hear and decide appeals for a zoning variance when strict application of the provisions of this ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. A zoning variance may be granted in an individual case of unnecessary hardship if the board makes and explains in writing the following findings. A, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. The response, there may be extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this piece of property due to the existing layout and configuration of the site, including grand trees, corner setbacks, landscaping buffers, and dimensions. As the letter of intent states, the current configuration makes it exceptionally difficult to provide adequate capacity for vehicle stacking for the drive-through without designing double lanes to increase the capacity. B, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. The response, these conditions may not generally apply to other properties in the vicinity as commercial properties nearby do not have the existing configuration and layout of the subject property. Additionally, any restaurants in the vicinity that have drive-throughs are single-lane drive-throughs. C, because of these conditions, the application of this ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Response, the application of this ordinance, specifically section 153.336, architectural and landscape design guidelines, may not restrict the utilization of the property as it is currently being used. However, it will effectively prohibit the implementation of the site improvements to increase the stacking capacity of the drive-through operation and improve traffic flow. D, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the zoning district will not be harmed by granting of the variance. In response, the authorization of this variance may not be a detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the zoning district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. As the applicant's letter of intent states, the granting of the variance will improve traffic circulation, reduce overflow onto surrounding streets, and lessen the impact to surrounding properties. E, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not grant a variance, the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district, to extend physically a non-conforming use of land, or to change the zoning district boundaries shown on the official zoning map. Response, the variance does not allow a use that is not permitted in the zoning district, nor does it extend physically a non-conforming use of land or change the zoning district boundaries. F, the need for the variance is not the result of the applicant's own actions. Response, the need for the variance may not be the result of the applicant's own actions because the size and the configuration of the lot are existing site conditions. Additionally, the need for the variance, as the letter of intent explains, is to improve traffic flow due to an increase in patronage. And G, granting of the variance does not substantially conflict with the comprehensive plan or the purposes of this ordinance. In response, the variance may not conflict with the comprehensive plan, specifically the transportation element needs of mitigating the impacts of a changing population on the existing transportation system. Additionally, the proposed site plan shows a new multi-use path which satisfies another transportation element need of providing safe, convenient pedestrian and bicycle systems in appropriate locations, while an economic development strategy is to continue to encourage positive redevelopment and development by offering incentives such as non-conforming signage reimbursements and buffer reductions for multi-use path placement, transit facilities, etc. The board may approve with conditions or deny this case based on the findings of fact, unless additional information is deemed necessary to make an informed decision. And that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Crane.
Mhm.
Are there any questions for staff from BZA members?
I do, Corey.
Okay, Ms. Hipp?
Hey, Kristen, can you let us know, are there any other special exceptions in the James Island district, I guess, that has this double drive-through exception?
We have not issued, we haven't had any applications for variances for double drive-throughs.
Okay. Sorry, hang on one second. And when I went and drove by a couple times, I noticed there's and maybe this might be for the applicant, I'm not sure, the stormwater drainage area. There seems to be a body of water kind of near the shed. Is that impacted at all by these plans? And I guess, do we know how that's going to be addressed? Is that a substantial stormwater receptacle, I guess is the word?
Yeah, I can't get too technical with that.
Okay.
But I do know that the intent is to move that to kind of in the middle of the horseshoe drive-through area. And then
Okay.
there will also be some underground retention to satisfy the requirements for stormwater.
Okay, that should be good. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Anyone else?
Yes, I do. Kristen, this is Dave Savage. Effectively, there was a double drive-through that people were utilizing. Did someone complain, and has the town issued a cease and desist that which caused this application to be made?
No, I think that what Chick-fil-A currently has wouldn't technically be considered a double drive-through, as everything's removable and temporary. Nothing that they're doing right now has required any permitting. There's one order box, there's one canopy drive under, and there's just one concrete, lane for the drive-through. What they propose is, permanent, requires permitting, and therefore that would be considered a double drive-through versus what they have.
All right. So if I understand your answer, if the application is denied, they can still continue to function as they have been.
Yes.
All right. My second question, I simply don't know. At some point, there must have been an approval when the initial construction plans were submitted. There was an entrance coming from Folly Road, and at some point that was closed. Who closed that? Was that something that Chick-fil-A closed, or did the town ask that they close it because of traffic concerns? Do you have an answer for that?
You mean the curb cut that they have on Folly Road currently, that they put cones in
Yes,
front
ma'am.
of? That wasn't a town request, and when it went through originally, that was 2006. It went through Charleston County zoning and planning. I don't believe the town that was a lull in the town's history, I suppose. So I don't know the answer as to why, any specifics on that. I know the engineer that worked on that original plan is the engineer that's working on this plan too, the applicant. So that might be a better question for him.
Thank you. Those were my two questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Savage. Ms. Fabry? You had your hand up.
I did. I'm good. Mr. Savage asked the questions I was going to ask, so I'm all good with my answers. Thanks.
Okay, Mr.
Can I
Smith,
ask can I ask, oh, I'm sorry. Does Roy need to go?
did you have any questions, Mr. Smith? We'll circle back around to Ms. Hip after you get a turn, Roy. I think you're muted.
Yes, I was trying to
Okay.
find my cursor. I have too many screens. Ms. Hip, please go ahead.
I just, one of the letters that was submitted, in, I couldn't tell if it was opposition or support, but they asked that a true traffic study be done. And I'm just wondering, has that been done ever? And maybe that is a question for the applicant and not Kristen. But has there been a true traffic study done?
Not specifically for this site. I know there was one done for the Folly and Camp intersection, which may have included that site, but it's not required for what they're trying to do.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm done for real this time.
Ms. Fabry has her hand back up.
I thought of a question. The multi-use path under the Rethink Folly Road that would go in front of Chick-fil-A, am I correct in saying that that point in front of Chick-fil-A on Folly Road, it would be 7 feet wide? And then just south, like in front of the Verizon store, it would go to 5 feet. Is that correct, Kristen? Do you know?
So what's existing in front of Verizon right now is 5 feet, and that's what the county put in when the improvements, the Folly and Camp improvements were done. So phase 1 with the Rethink Folly Road project is that includes an 8-foot sidewalk back of curb from Ellis Creek down to where that sidewalk starts at Verizon. But we have in the Rethink Folly Road plan and in our ordinance, we require a 12-foot separated multi-use path for new developments to be put in, even if there's a sidewalk there, because the goal of the Rethink Folly plan is to have a separated larger multi-use path go all the way up and down both sides of Folly Road. So the 5-foot sidewalk wouldn't meet those standards of the Rethink Folly Road plan.
But the 12 feet would also encompass the bike lane. And I think it's currently striped with a bike lane on that section of Folly. There's currently a bike lane there.
I think there is a bike lane right there, but the Rethink Folly Road plan would have a bike lane and an additional separated multi-use path. Am I answering your question? I'm sorry if I'm not.
No, thank you. No, I remembered it as 12 feet, which would be the bike path and the sidewalk, hence the multi-use path, similar to what they have on Bees Ferry. When all those charrettes were going on. That was my understanding. And I just wanted to know if you could clarify that, because I know that in front of Verizon, it's a 5-foot sidewalk that went in.
Right. And that was part of the transportation improvement projects. And unfortunately, the multi-use path wasn't put in during that road improvement. But any new development will have to go by the Rethink Folly standards, which include the multi-use path on both sides of the road. The 8-foot sidewalk is part of the plan, but it's not exactly large to fit the standards of the Rethink Folly plan.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Any other questions for Kristen?
I have a couple. When we look at the issue of whether the variance is the result of the applicant's own actions, I understand that we're saying that perhaps the configuration of the lot or existing site conditions, but what is the lot? Because we have 2 pieces of property. One is to be leased, and I'm assuming that we're saying that this first variance is contingent upon us looking at the site plan submitted with the other variance. So my question, I guess, is if we're going to get rid of the detention pond or we're going to do something else, put it in the middle of the horseshoe, in the site plan that includes both of the lots, then why, I would be curious to know, has a study been done to maybe put some catacomb or some other storage, water storage underneath where we already have it, and pave on top of that without destroying all the trees in the along the property line, including a grand tree, I believe. And I'm just curious about what study has been done, because it says that it's to improve traffic flow, but is this traffic flow to be improved because of the plan that includes 2 lots, or is it due to any study that's been done with this 1 lot that they already have? I am be curious to know how much has been done on that and what lots to which we're referring, both or 1 for this variance.
Since there is a remaining lot line and there's 2 different owners of these parcels, I felt it was best to not include the other parcel in this request, since the drive-through and the tree are both on the existing parcel. I'm not exactly sure, as if that might be a better question for the applicant on the reconfiguration, and if they looked at the possibilities that you were speaking of with the underwater detention where the current one is, or I'm not really sure of that answer.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Crane.
Any other questions for Ms. Crane? Well, thank you so much, Ms. Crane. This time I call the applicant. You have a 10-minute time limit, and we look forward to hearing it. We can't hear there. Now we can hear. If you would please also state your name and address for us, please.
My name is Mike White. I'm with G. Robert George and Associates, and the business address is 2411 Savannah Highway. And I'm the engineer for Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A representative is here as well. Chad Ross, he'll speak a little bit as well. And the operator, Jason Williams, is also here. We've met with the staff, and we've tried to endeavor to really be good stewards of both pieces of property here. Unfortunately, they're leased by different parties, so we couldn't completely integrate them together. So that might answer Mr. Roy Davis Smith's question a little bit about whether they're completely integrated or whether they're separate. So the answer is they're semi integrated. And I'll get into the stormwater issue and answer a little bit as well. The double drive-through, I think, has been well stated by Kristen, that we're trying our best to address traffic backup and capacity issues, and also safety for patrons and team members. We've all been through the pandemic. We know the Chick-fil-A's dining room has been shut down, but that is opening back up, and will open up in its full measure when the improvements are done. So this, the primary purpose of the drive-through is obviously to address the traffic and backup and capacity issues that are going on. And in conjunction with that, they will also improve their kitchen. They're going to completely gut and put a one of these max serve kitchens, and Chad Ross can tell you a little bit more about those, because obviously that's inside the building. But that will also improve the ability of Chick-fil-A to better serve the customer quicker. So hopefully we won't have the traffic issues that we've got going on Eugene and to a lesser degree on Folly Road. Some of this is obviously tied to tree removal, and I've seen a lot of that in some of the emails. The double drive-through specifically on the Chick-fil-A, other than the grand tree application, which is obviously a separate issue that we're not going to cover until later in this meeting. There are just basically regular trees that we're having to remove. And just about every one of those trees was specifically planted by Chick-fil-A and is actually on a landscape plan that I provided to the town of James Island as a matter of record that shows specifically that we did. And you hear this from a lot of engineers, but I'm not the kind of engineer who like to just remove trees willy-nilly, but I obviously like to try to, do things that make common sense. And to put this drive-through in and get the capacity and the bang for what we need to do to help, alleviate the traffic problems, we're going to need to remove a lot of those non-protected, non-grand trees. And a lot of them are relatively small. Example, there's like 4 10-inch maples. There's 2 12-inch birch or elm trees. There's a couple of nice oaks at the front driveway, existing driveway, which we do need to remove because we're going to relocate the driveway. And then to a more nicer degree, there's a couple of trees that are on the expansion parcel that we're going to have to remove because that's where we're relocating the driveway so we can complement traffic circulation. With regard to stormwater, and I don't know if Kristen can share the screen because I provided a plan that shows where we're planning on putting the underground detention. And there'll be 2 separate underground detention areas, one on the primary Chick-fil-A site to compensate for the filling in of the above ground detention. And I'm not sure if Kristen's trying to find that site plan. And then there'll be a separate underground detention on the expansion parcel with its own separate connectivity to the drainage facilities within Folly Road. Should be the one that actually shows the underground chambers on it. I think that is it. Well, that's a different concept that gives you the idea. After thinking about it, we didn't want to put, for lack of a better term, above ground, a hole behind the store. We want to use that for planting. We're going to obviously do so. So the most current site plan doesn't show above ground detention in that area behind the building. It'll be underground, primarily where it's shown, but it will be set back so it's not within the buffer. And then the other part on the expansion parcel will be separate. So that's how we're going to deal with the underground and the stormwater detention requirements. And as you can see, we've tried to maximize the planting area for the trees that we are trying to preserve so they truly have the opportunity to survive and thrive and not just pay lip service and get curb lines and grading activity too close to it. I think Kristen might have mentioned we hired an arborist. We had them evaluate all the trees and give them, rates and gradings as to, whether we could remove them or not remove them. So, I know this is going to come later in the grand tree removal portion, but, that's part of kind of what we had done. One other thing I'd like to mention, and it's actually on one of the plans, we have tried to limit the amount of impervious surface area that we're calling for in this development. And we actually have calculations on the site plan, not that one that's Christian showing, but one of the site plans actually shows it. We're over 30% of pervious planting green space area on the Chick-fil-A site, not counting pervious pavers that we're going to put up at the upper portion. I think that's west, plan north. And then the expansion parcel, we're nearly at 40% green space. And that doesn't count the pervious pavers that we're going to put on that. So we've tried to think about the environment, about tree preservation, traffic. It's a fairly complex site in a very tight area with a lot of physical constraints to it. The multi-use path should be shown on there. We plan on abiding by the requirements to put the multi-use path, and we'll adjust and relocate and tie it in. We may have to obviously neck it down like you can see at the corner of Eugene and Folly, but we plan on abiding by the requirements to replant. If we need to look at upsizing the caliper tree size in planting, then we will do so. And we'll try our best to, be good stewards of what we plant and replenish the site. Chad, do you want to say anything about,
Yes,
what we're planning on doing? And then I know Jason would probably like to talk a little bit about the operation, because I know there was a question about the driveway. The driveway is fully functional, but it's coned off temporarily. And Jason can speak a little bit more about why he's operating in that manner. But Chad, I'll turn it over to you. And of course, if there's any questions on the board, please feel free to ask me to come up, and I'll be more than happy to try to help.
Yes, Chad Ross, address 5200 Buffington Road in Atlanta, Georgia. I just wanted to reiterate something. This is something that Mike kind of touched on, and that we are doing a very, very comprehensive remodel here. We're redoing the kitchen, we're redoing the dining room, we're doing a lot of refresh and retouch up things to the exterior as well. Obviously, the drive-through, which gets a lot of the attention. The parking itself, the parking lot, landscaping. And I just wanted to reassure, and I think Chick-fil-A, we pride ourselves in what we do. We don't come in slash and burn. We don't scab and just try and patch things in. We take a lot of pride in how our buildings look, how our sites look, especially our landscaping. That's something that we really, try and we feel like it's part of the curb appeal that we do have and part of the entire experience. So just that, again, just to reassure that we're not here, to just try and see what we can squeeze in there. We want the entire lot, the entire experience when you come onto this lot to be holistic and worthy of what we all try and do. What Jason and his team, the experience for customers that they try and provide, we feel like it's all together. We do it all over the country, and we're going to continue to try and do it here. Thanks.
Jason, is that
I'll show you that in a second.
Is Mr. Williams going to speak as well, or are y'all done?
his time was up, but he's willing to come up if you can
Oh,
extend.
I'm sorry. I did not hear that.
I'll share during the 2-minute support. I'll share during the 2-minute support time.
That would be great. Thank you. I'm sorry. I did not hear our timer speak. Thank you for keeping our time. At this time, we'll go into the questions for the applicant from BZA members. Who would like to start? I know everyone probably has some good questions to ask. Start with Ms. Hip.
I just have a real quick question about the other trees that you referenced. I guess the two that are in the front, they're going to have to be relocated because of the driveway. Are all these trees, were they required to be planted back in 2006 as part of the, I guess, compensation for cutting down trees that were already existed? Or do you know the answer to that?
I can't answer that question directly. We normally try to plant what's required, but sometimes we supplement. And this project was actually permitted under the ordinance of Charleston County at the time. Joel Evans was the planning department person I worked with. We do have a copy of the landscape plan that is submitted as a matter of record. Actually, Chris can bring it up on the screen. It's fairly extensive, and as you could well see, Chick-fil-A's thrive pretty good. It's a fairly nice experience, and we plan on replicating that same experience with the improvements. We're going to try not to do, disturb things that are well and don't need to be disturbed, but obviously the parts that are more northerly towards the site and where the out parcel is, that's the area that we're obviously going to have to do a lot of landscaping. And we don't have a plan prepared yet, but we have the same landscape architect literally that worked on this plan before, Manley Land Design. I've worked with him for like 20 years or so. They do excellent work, and whatever we need to do to make this work and for the community to be proud and supportive of it, including upsizing caliper trees, things of that nature. I think everybody knows we don't want to jam trees into an area and then none of them survive. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. It does. I'm done. Thank you, Brooke.
So I guess I want to kind of wrap my brain around it a little bit. So am I correct? Is it my understanding you want to address traffic and safety issues, increase your capacity, and improve the site? Is that your purpose for the variance?
I think that's a good summary. I'm sure there's some, idiosyncrasies to that and some details to it, but essentially that's what the purpose of the double drive-through is for.
So when I did my site visit, while I understand you only have one order box and one canopy, and I understand you're putting cones out, I did notice a painted second drive, which is somewhat permanent. I mean, it's painted, it's there. And then when you, I guess, feel the need to do it, you would bring out the cones. And I'm assuming that would be done when there's a lot of people coming to eat at one time. When I was there yesterday, it was one lane open, we went through and got a sandwich or breakfast sandwich, and I, walked around for a while, and it wasn't that busy. But so it looks to me like it has been operating in a semi-permanent, and maybe, no one knew that you needed a variance to do that. Did the virus cause it? Do you really think you would need that if you go back to your full dining room capacity? I mean, was business that booming for drive-throughs before COVID? I know the past 2 years have kind of turned the world upside down on our heads in many ways. And I guess we're not quite back to normal because we're meeting by Zoom tonight. But, as we get back more to normal, is this really necessary? I don't know. I'm just, kind of throwing this out, or is it just for the, the remodel, I guess, is kind of what I'm getting at.
Let me let Jason provide some input of why he's operating the way he's operating. And obviously the pandemic had a lot to do with that. And there are some concerns about the way he's operating. If you've been on there at peak times, which I have, you can't circulate around in that parking lot, especially if you want to be a person that's bypassing and going through the stacking. But Jason can tell you a little bit more about how and why he's operating. Obviously, we don't want to continue to operate in that manner. It's been, marginal, I guess, is best. Maybe there's a better word you have for that, Jason. So you might.
Okay.
To share. Before the pandemic, we were one lane drive through all the way around. And what we discovered is that as the guests had to circle, it would back up onto Eugene Gibbs and then back up onto Folly Road. And obviously nobody wants that. We don't want that. The guests don't want that. And so we decided to make the guests enter the drive-through, into the parking lot, circle all the way around the building, and then enter from the back side. And that's one of the reasons we blocked off the Folly Road entrance, because you could cut the line by just pulling into Folly versus circling all the way around. The problem with the circle all the way around is that then to get into the drive-through, you're blocking the exit of the drive-through. And it was a big traffic nightmare. Again, more traffic backing up on UG Gibbs. So we decided to do the double stack. Most all new Chick-fil-A's and remodels go to the double drive-through to allow more cars to get onto the lot. And that's why the opportunity to get the site next to us is appealing, because it allows us to have some parking over there and then allow the drive-through stack to be longer. If you look on the plan, the number of stacked cars is like a really important key to the success of the site plan, because we can stack more cars in the drive-through and not have them back out on Eugene Gibbs and Folly Road. And that's so yes, like we are operating in this quasi double drive-through right now. It's not ideal. Our team has to walk between traffic. We only have one canopy, and so when it rains, we have to go to one lane. We can't stay with two lanes. If we're able to then to get the variance for the double drive-through, we're able to have a double coverage. And so the team can be outside and not be in the sun. They can be under cover. Both sides are covered. It's safer. It's designed appropriately for the double drive-through for our team safety and for the guest safety as well. That's why we're asking for it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions for the applicant? Ms. Fabry?
Okay, I have a series of questions. Just out of curiosity, do you know what the volume is? And I don't want to put you on the spot, so if you don't know, that's fine, but the volume is on James Island versus Magwood Drive and Mount Pleasant as far as customers served daily or?
Yeah, I don't know exactly the number of customers. I can tell today we did 149 cars in 1 hour through the drive-through.
Okay.
I can tell you annual sales volume. I don't know if that would be helpful to kind of give you an idea.
Yeah, like is Mount Pleasant like the biggest
so
one, and then Magwood?
Last year we did just over $7 million in sales. Magwood did over $10 million in sales. I think both Mount Pleasant stores did between $7 and $8 million. But you know, they have 3 over there now, so that took some of the volume away. I would say that Chick-fil-A James Island is average volume, maybe slightly below average for chain wide. But because we're a single drive-through, our drive-through is not as good as other stores that have the double drive-throughs. If that's what you're asking.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm asking this is because I looked up the size of those other 2 stores, knowing like that they're always really, really busy, like James Island. So you're about 1.5 acres on James Island. Mount Pleasant is 1.6, and West Ashley, the Magwood Drive location, is at 1.3. So they're managing their traffic on basically the same size of land that you currently have. And I know that the Mount Pleasant location, the one off of Johnny Dodd's, closed down for a while, and it sounds like it did the renovation that you guys are looking to do with the reconfiguration of the parking lot, upgrading the kitchen, et cetera. Is that the case?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay.
2 things, the Mount Pleasant store and the Magwood store, they both have overflow parking, which is helpful for them. They're not surrounded by residential, so like their team members can park sort of off-site, if you call it that, like in the neighborhood parking, shopping centers. We don't have that, and so our staff, parks on site. That's one of the things.
Okay.
Interject. We obviously try to design these so that there won't be overflows, but those stores do have overflows. Magwood Road particularly has overflow occasionally, and I designed that. We didn't optimize that, and there's reasons I won't get into. The building placement was fixed and we had to stay with that location, so we couldn't maximize the stack. But maximizing the stack has a profound impact in keeping the roadways clear. And I can tell you a site that really maximizes the impact of that stack, and that's the Dorchester Road one, which I designed originally and then redesigned. And that one, I think Chad can tell you, and I think Jason can tell you, that one rarely ever backs up, and it's doing an amazing catering service as well. So it is a need. I know seems like there's inference. Well, can't we just operate and get back to normal? And really, this double drive-through is really going to be a need to make sure this store works properly and doesn't impact the local community in a negative way, particularly from a traffic standpoint.
Okay, and the reason why I'm asking the question is my concern primarily is with the storm detention that you're looking at filling, and I would really like to hear more information about the stormwater plan for that, because that's a big concern for me. You're putting more impervious surface as well as impacting the current drainage system that's there. So that's my concern, number one. The other thing is that, the backup of the drive-through is kind of your your own creation in a way. And this is not, judgment on Chick-fil-A, but with the pandemic and the dining room closed, you had no choice but for all of the customers to be serviced by the drive-through. So I know that in the past couple of weeks, I've gone through the James Island Chick-fil-A at different times of the day to look at what was going on. And there is backup on Eugene Gibbs, but it seems like it's a very small window of kind of a peak traffic lunchtime, Saturday afternoon kind of thing. And I know it's frustrating for the residents that live nearby to have that impact, but my fear is what's going to happen with the impact on the stormwater system that's there when you're, paving basically the lot next door, laying down more impervious surface, and whatever you're doing with the detention pond that's there. That's what concerns me, because I'm concerned about flooding in that neighborhood.
Well, let me address that issue if I could.
Sure.
Kristen, is there a way you could call up one of the site plan, the most current one that I provided, I think yesterday, that showed the comparison of the trees, but also showed the underground detention chambers in the specific location that we intend to build them currently. It's a color drawing. And I'm not sure, can she hear me? Yeah, I think that is the one. You can see the size of the detention area for the Chick-fil-A portion. It is independent. It's going to handle the stormwater for the Chick-fil-A parcel, which I can't remember the exact size, but it's more than the size of the current detention area, which is above ground, that we're going to be filling in. Obviously, we're going to go through all of the hydrology and make sure, and we're actually going to conform to the new regulations, which I believe actually restricts the release of runoff, I think, to 80% of what the runoff rate would typically be. So if it has to be larger than that, then we're going to make it larger than that. So we're going to address the stormwater concerns, the way they need to be addressed. And I know Charleston County also helps administer this. And I've also had some discussions already with Chris Wanamaker about all of this. And I've met also with your town engineer. So the Chick-fil-A portion will, be handled in that way. And then we're going to put the detention separately for the out parcel. And we're also adding pervious pavers to reduce the amount of runoff even more. So again, that will be sized. We'll find out what the pre-development release rate is off of that, and it'll be sized appropriately. If it needs to be expanded, we'll expand it. And the control release structure will be, designed appropriately as well. We're actually going to have to make a separate connection to the storm drain facilities on Folly Road. It follows the curb line linear, but it's hard to see on that drawing. We already have a connection that we're going to utilize, that the control structure, and there's a utility junction box that we had to install because there's a sewer line that we had to cross. That'll continue to be used. So to answer your question, we're going to obviously address the stormwater issue. And I think up at the top, Kristen, if you can go to the top of the drawing and show the table at the very top. Keep going all the way up. Just go out, I guess, zoom out. There's a table at the very, not the tree table, but the actual impervious surface area. Okay, there it is. Over to there. That is a very accurate tabular breakdown of the current pervious and impervious surface area. And if you look at the new development, you can see, counting the pervious pavers, the Chick-fil-A will be over 30%, it'll be like 33. I wouldn't say it's extraordinary for development, but in today's time, that's pretty significant. And then the out parcel itself, counting the pervious pavers, would be roughly about at 50%. So we're obviously trying to reduce the amount of impervious surface area, and also the fact that we're trying to preserve so many trees, particularly the 2 grand trees in the center on the common property line. That in itself is going to create a massive amount of planting area in impervious planting green area that'll limit the amount of runoff. So I hope that will, answer your question, but we're obviously going to go through all the numbers and make sure we address the concern about stormwater.
But it will all be underground, is that correct?
That is correct. We don't plan on putting any rain gardens or, things of that nature. Obviously, the planting beds will absorb water, and all of the buffers, the existing buffers, we're going to leave those alone. They'll continue to, absorb, and we'll plant those appropriately. We even moved the curb line over to the northern edge, the northern edge of the property. We moved that over a little bit forward, both to give some more breathing room to the root zones of trees 7, 8, and 9, but that also had a positive effect of giving us a little bit more planting area. So I think it's 12.5 feet. That's kind of small to see, but we're required to do 10, and we'll move that over a little bit.
And what is it that's dividing the drive-through? Like, is that something, a different system than what's currently used in Mount Pleasant on Johnny Dodds?
Are you dividing the drive-through? Are you referring to the striping?
In the section where, where Kristen is, where it goes from the single line to the double drive-through.
I'm not familiar with Johnny Dodds. I didn't work on it. It's just striping. There's no, it's obviously just striping on the paving, and the purpose is to give the team members a defined area to walk, and obviously to give the drivers a heads up that, hey, you don't want to, infringe on that area. We've tried to make those lanes at the appropriate places wide enough to make sure the team members would be safe. But that's not a hard feature, it's just striping.
Okay, and that's what's currently there now. From, you drive in, you have 2 order lanes basically, and then there are 3 lanes, which I guess are either two stacks and a travel lane on the far outside. One time
for that, I know that's a temporary measure, because actually having 2 lanes on the street side, the follower side, actually limits the use of the parking spaces, because you can't back in and out of them like you really need to be. So we're not planning on obviously doing that. And that was a temporary measure because the dining room was closed. But Jason, you can obviously speak to that if you think it's necessary.
Yeah, like you can see when the car's pulling into the drive-through, it's a single stack and then it goes to a double. In our current configuration, we have a double stack leading up to that, just because the horseshoe is so small, we don't have enough around that curve to stack cars. So that's why we've done the double stack all the way through. That's not ideal, again, because all those cars and those 20 parking spaces have a hard time backing out. But that's just kind of how we've had to go. And again, our dining room is open currently. I know there was concern about once the world gets back to normal, and I'm ready for it to as well. My dining room is open, so we are operating as normal as we will. Currently and after remodel. I think the difference is going to be, like you mentioned, a new kitchen is going to speed everything up as well, which I think will be really nice to help kind of move cars through as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Is there anyone present?
I do have a question, and I don't mean to be facetious, but I do want to ask, don't you think that the need for this, I want to ask the applicants if they feel that the need for this double lane is a result of their own actions by being so successful and being so darn successful in working the delivery lanes better than anybody else?
I'll say we do our best to serve our guests, and we're thankful that they come. We try to staff appropriately. You know, we hire as many people as we can and try to give as many jobs to the community as we can to serve our guests. So we're thankful that they come.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members? Okay. Well, this time we'll move on to folks who want to speak. We'll start with anyone present at Town Hall who wishes to speak in support of this request. Is there anyone at Town Hall, Flannery? I'm sorry?
Hang on one moment.
No, I don't think so unless there's specific questions that board members have. I think we've stated okay.
Okay, our questions to you is unlimited time, and I think y'all have so far answered everyone, and we've, I guess, we have closed that portion now, but thank you so much. Is there anyone at Town Hall who wishes to speak in opposition?
Yes, we have one person, Miss Marianne Henry.
Okay, if that person would state their name and address, and you are limited to 2 minutes.
Well, okay. I'm Marianne Henry. I live at 825 West Madison Avenue. I am the neighborhood representative for Centerville neighborhood, which is adjacent to the Chick-fil-A property. It's no secret, it's all over very legitimate sources on the internet, that Chick-fil-A, the corporation as a whole, is expanding and changing their business model to expand pickup and delivery. And as the gentleman from Atlanta has already assured us, they will be expanding their kitchen facilities with this new construction. So I would like to ask the BZA to consider, why are they expanding their kitchen facilities? They say that they want to alleviate traffic. I live in Centerville. I live on West Madison Avenue. We have a terrible problem with cut-through traffic already. A terrible problem with it all day, but especially lunchtime, especially dinner time. And so I don't know that it's about alleviating traffic when they say that. I think that corporations are in the business of making profits, and not about, saving our neighborhoods or ensuring the livability of James Island residents. And so I would like to suggest that perhaps our problems with traffic, with their expansion and the kitchen expansions and the change in their business model, will create more of a traffic problem. They cannot guarantee that they're going to alleviate traffic problems. They cannot do that. I think there's a lot of missing information here. There's a lot of it. And I really, really respectfully ask you to please consider quality of life for the residents. And I thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you so much, Ms. Henry. Anyone else, Flannery, at Town Hall? Okay, thank you so much. At this time, we'll go to anyone on Zoom. Has anyone raised their hand on Zoom to speak for the applicant?
Right now, there are about 10 attendees on the Zoom call, but nobody has raised their hand or submitted, information in the Q&A or the chat box.
Okay. Thank you, Nikki. So we don't have anyone wanting to speak for or against, it doesn't sound like. So at this time, I would like to mention.
I'm sorry, Brooke. Susan
Yep.
just texted me. She wants to raise her hand, but can't. She's the telephone number.
Oh, okay. We
Susan
have
Milliken.
someone who wants to speak through the telephone. Is that correct?
Well, she's logged on to the Zoom. I see her as an attendee, but she says she cannot raise her hand.
Okay. Can we call?
And I don't
him?
know if any of these other people might be having the same thing.
Can we call on Susan Milliken to speak. Nikki, is there a way to do that? Do you need her phone number or something? I imagine Ms. Hip could get that.
I think that she just looks like she permitted her.
Yes,
Oh,
I just
okay.
promoted her.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. I'm going to try to unmute her myself. I'm not sure how that works with the phone call-in, but if I can unmute her, that should work.
That would be great. And when that happens, if Ms. Milliken, if you could state your name and address, and you are limited to 2 minutes, please.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hello?
Hi.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Can everyone hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can now.
Okay, I apologize. My internet connection is down, so I could not get on the video Zoom meeting, so I had to call in by phone. So I
Okay.
apologize for that. My name is Susan Milliken. I live at 762 Fort Sumter Drive on James Island. I happen to be a commissioner with the James Island Public Service District, but I am speaking this evening as a private citizen who has lived on James Island for over 25 years and regularly frequents Chick-fil-A restaurant, as I have 2 sons. So that is something we do often. So I would like to ask the BZA to please deny Chick-fil-A's variance request for a double drive-through. And, you know, this application is very difficult. It involves so many sticky issues. It involves the Rethink Folly Road plan. It touches on the pandemic. It touches on traffic congestion. You know, it really has so much there in it for you all to look at. But what makes it easy for the BZA is that your charge is clear. You have criteria that you look at and you judge and you weigh to deny or approve these variance requests from folks who come before you. One thing I just want to mention real quickly is I feel like we have a loss of sensibility lately. You know, none of us would head out on a summer Saturday at 11 a.m. to go to Folly Beach. None of us would go to the airport at 8 a.m. from James Island. We all know not to go to Chick-fil-A at school dismissal, at 5 p.m., at lunch, at different times. So there is definitely an ebb and flow there. I'm glad that Ms. Henry spoke from Centerville. And I know this is really, really tough for residents on West Madison and in Centerville, but there do happen to be several other access points out of and into Centerville on Camp Road, and then another one on Folly Road. So thankfully, they do have those other access points. But back to the issue at hand. By my count, Chick-fil-A right now can fit about 22 cars in their drive-through. They're asking for 39 cars. That's an increase of 17 cars. What we know on James Island is that we will have 200 or more new residential units this year built on James Island. We know where they're going to be. 2 neighborhoods on Central Park Road, a neighborhood on Riverland, a large community at Grimble and Folly, new townhomes on Folly behind the Roper Hospital. So the people are just going to keep coming. So I think all of us fear that no matter how many fit in the Chick-fil-A line, there will always be more and a spillover. And what's really sobering to me is the populations in West Ashley and the population in Mount Pleasant are so much more massive than our island population. And for us in the town of James Island to house the largest Chick-fil-A in the county, you know, is what it's sounding like and looking like. Excuse me?
Your time is up. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, I would just ask that you please deny this request, especially given the loss of trees, whether they be grand or not, 13 trees, and also The grand tree summary provided by the applicant is incorrect. There are only 3 or 4 grand trees on that list. That is not an exceptional condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Milliken. Is there anyone else that we can tell who would like to speak on Zoom? Okay. For the record, BZA members, we received prior to this meeting a total of 6 emails for support of the variance and 23 against. It appeared 6 of the ones against were specific towards the tree case, which would make 17 against for this case. I would like to mention many of these emails did not have an address. In the future, I would like to request that we always have a person's address, just as we require when we're speaking in person. I think that's really important. Someone's proximity can certainly affect the evidence. As you know, if it's someone across the island or someone who lives behind on West Madison. With that said, now I will call the applicant for rebuttal. If one of y'all, there's a 2-minute time limit for this, for you to rebut the speakers who spoke against the case. So just wanted to make you aware of that. So you can either choose the person you would like to address it or split your time within the 2 minutes.
First, I just want to say thank you to the board, to everyone here. It is a big subject and a big topic. I just do want to say we do apologize for any inconvenience that we've had to the community in any way. We do know we've identified certain issues that we are hoping to address with traffic, with team member safety, with customer safety, with parking, with a lot of different things. And that's what we hope to be able to address with what we're going to be doing, what we would like to do. And we're not ever going to claim that it's perfect, that we are perfect in any way. There is no perfect solution. But we've had success with this in the past. We know in certain extents how much it's helped everyone. And so we just hope and we pray that you guys would consider that, and if there is anything that we can do in any way, that we would try and help all of the neighbors and help the entire community. Thanks.
Thank you. So at this time, I close the hearing to the public. I will make a motion to approve the variance. For discussion, I ask for a second.
Second.
So Ms. Lyon, myself, chairperson, has made the motion to approve. Second from Mr. Smith. Now we can discuss. If anyone wants to make amendments, we can amend. But at least now it's open for discussion. I think everyone has a lot of thoughts from the questions I heard tonight. Who would like to start? And we can always defer this if you feel you need more information. This is a very, it's become very complicated as far as some of the questions and folks' interest. So we have lots of options. We can approve it, deny it, put conditions, defer it, whatever y'all think we should do. So. Who would like to start? Mr. Savage, you look like you're ready to go.
I'll say something to just sort of encourage discussion amongst ourselves. I will say that the applicant's submission is fairly thorough, more thorough than most that I've seen. I shared Ms. Fabry's questions about the drainage, and instead of just someone saying, oh, we're going to take care of that, they had the actual plans and square footage and showed that the drainage would be improved. I'm torn by the fact that on Folly Road, the town controls a certain percentage of the businesses there, and the city the other. And if you kind of look at what businesses the towns control, sometimes they're not the most advantageous. We encourage businesses to be successful. Chick-fil-A came in, and I think we can all agree that they are successful. I go there and it sounds like everybody else went there. It looks like everybody, I don't know if Roy has gone there, but it sounds like Corey and Amy and Brooke, along with myself, we've been there. And the fact of the matter is that at times the traffic is backed up onto Eugene. And when it backs up on Eugene, when you're on Folly Road trying to turn, you can't turn in there. I've been caught there. It's just an inevitable situation. People are going to go there. I mean, they are going to go there. And if we think that if we deny this application, which is designed to get cars off of Eugene, that somehow people aren't going to go there, we're deceiving ourselves. We simply are. And when you have those cars on the roadway, on Folly, because when people are coming from Folly Beach towards the city and they're at the light to turn left onto Eugene, when that light turns yellow, as many as possible will make that turn, and then they're blocking Folly Road from the other way. So we know that there is a traffic issue as it presently exists. And if we deny the application, that traffic situation is going to continue. It's not going to go away. I see a proposal where they try to anticipate a solution to that. I know that it's a solution that a lot of people don't like because it sort of increases the success of the business. But I looked at what they had and I thought it was well designed. I heard some people in opposition talk about the fact that the town's population is going to increase. It is. We're not going to stop that. But we need to start planning now for that increase. Putting a double drive-through here is not going to cause the population on the island to increase. What it may do is alleviate some of the problems that population increase causes. Those are just sort of my initial thoughts in line with some of the opposition that I heard. I haven't really addressed each of the factors, and I'm interested to hear your input there. But some of the comments that were in opposition as, oh, there must be an ulterior motive. They're going to increase this. I mean, yeah, corporations make profits. They really do. But give me some facts to deal with in terms of your opposition. I heard people say, oh, but the traffic. Yeah, but the traffic is what they're trying to address. So just to get the discussion rolling, and, I think my decision is going to depend on what I hear from everybody else, but it seems like we should be able to reach a consensus as to whether or not we wish to move forward or if additional information is needed.
Great, thank you so much. One comment I always have, and several of y'all brought it up, is flooding in the the drainage and the basin and all. Typically, that is handled by planning and zoning. We ran into some issues with that on a previous case, and I think their plans were thorough. Like David said, flooding worries me a lot. I guess we have to trust in our in our authorities, the municipality authorities, folks like Kristen, to do the right thing with that. But it does, it does concern me, but I'm not sure that is our purview, other than how it would affect the quality of life for the residents. And in that case, it does. But, I know in the past, planning has not always been good for James Island. And now we have a town, and we have folks like Kristen and Mark Johnson, our public works director, who work hard and stick to permits. And, make folks jump through the hoops who are developing or remodeling and things like that. And I think it's important that we trust them and know that they'll, make folks do the right thing with that. So I just wanted to throw that out there because that's a concern of mine too, whether we approve this or not, that, going forward for other cases as well. But it sounds like they have addressed this. And I know that was a big concern of Amy's. And I think Corey, you had touched on it as well. Because I saw that pond of water too. And I was like, what's going on with that? But it sounds like that would be addressed. So I don't know. My biggest concern is do they meet the criteria? That's our job. We have to, make sure they meet all the criteria. That's what's required for approval. So those are some of my thoughts. Who wants to go next?
Well, I'll just mention a couple of things. First of all, just in case anyone wanted to know, I eat at Chick-fil-A more than I should. And I like to drive through, and I think they do a really good job with that. But what I do want to say is that I'm trying to wrap my mind around the first one. Are there extraordinary, extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property? And I'm trying to figure out, I read the staff response. There may be, due to the existing layout and configuration, the corner setbacks, landscape, but see, landscape buffers, that's not extraordinary or unusual. That everybody needs to be doing that. Grand trees, they're not extraordinary. They are extraordinary, but they're not unusual. Okay. Corner setbacks, every corner has them. I mean, as I agree with it, the idea of improving traffic flow, and I applaud them. I think they do a good business. I think they're a good thing for the island, have been really, but I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around number one. Then these same conditions, they do not apply to other property in the vicinity. No, exactly, they do. Everybody's got buffers. They've got corners. I mean, all four of those corners have corners of stuff. So I'm really not seeing that they are that strange. I'm sorry, but I don't get it. And I'm going to leave it at that for now. I mean, except for that, I really like the pepper jack cheese on the deluxe.
Thank you. Corey?
I do eat at Chick-fil-A a lot. I have a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. I have eaten at Chick-fil-A maybe 10 times in the past 10 days, ever since we got the packet, just to do my due diligence and experience the experience with Chick-fil-A. James Island Chick-fil-A does a really good job right now. Y'all are doing awesome. Mount Pleasant, Johnny Dodds is horrible compared to y'all. I think with the traffic flow and the experience and how long it takes, I feel like the James Island experience is in and out. Y'all do a really good job. Your people are so nice. I feel like y'all are doing it very well right now, in my opinion. So I'll just say that.
Amy?
I agree a lot with Mr. Smith on looking at the criteria and having a disagreement. An example that was brought up was Starbucks. Starbucks right across the street, they have the same issues with traffic, but they're not before us asking for a bigger space or a different type of drive-through. And these corporations have a corporate footprint that they want for their stores. And I think this is the new one for Chick-fil-A. And while I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, I think in this particular situation that there are 2 other locations that have made it happen basically with the same amount of space that this one does. And while I think there are issues with traffic, I mean, everybody can agree with that. It's just, I'm wondering if they could completely reconfigure that site with parking and maybe eliminating some of the plantings that they have in there to kind of reconfigure their current site that would allow them to accommodate a double drive-through like they're doing now and get the traffic off of the street, or have a lesser disruption to Eugene Gibbs, if anything. I think the safety of their employees, I agree, is paramount. But they do an extraordinary job at controlling and moving traffic. And I wish that they would come to work for Charleston County, because it would be wonderful to have Chick-fil-A, they're masters of controlling traffic. And so I just am reluctant to agree to this, because I don't think they meet the criteria, and I'm wondering if they can't reconfigure that site to do what they want to do. And if that includes maybe having to reduce the multi-use path to 5 feet or even 7 feet, that's something that, I would be okay with, because they redid that entire camp intersection and just put in 5-foot sidewalks, which, why would you hold Chick-fil-A to a higher standard to have 12 feet on their little section of Folly Road? So there are things, I would definitely be willing to entertain it. I don't want to say, no completely, but there's something that I don't think that they meet the criteria based on the information that we have right now.
Thank you, Amy.
And I guess, can I, one more time, please?
Sure.
I guess I should have tied it back to a criteria with my statement, and that is that I don't believe there is an extraordinary and exceptional condition, because they seem to be doing it very well right now. I guess I didn't finish my thought earlier. Thank you.
I have a problem with criteria C, actually. I wanted to throw that out there. Because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. I don't know that it meets that criteria. They're currently doing it, just not the way they want to. That was the one that I was kind of grappling with, and y'all have pointed out A and B as well. Any other thoughts on C or any more discussion on A and B? Or
I do have a problem with C, and I was concerned about the adjacent neighborhood, I guess, being part of D, so that it would have substantial detriment to the adjacent property.
I would like to speak up and say that I'm becoming convinced that I would vote against this because of A, B, and C. But what I would like to say to Chick-fil-A is that I wish our planning commission would consider not making the double drive for a restaurant that's doing well with the double drive meet these criteria, that maybe they could be in with banks and be accepted as normal double drive-through candidates, instead of having to have the exception. But that's up to the planning commission, and that's not for us. So for us, we have these criteria, and I can't wrap my mind around A, B, and C, and maybe some of the others. And so I don't think they're really extraordinary conditions. And I'm sad that I can't say yes, but I don't think I'm going to be able to.
Okay.
For the double drive.
Okay. Just to point out, because we did have Ms. Henry representing Centerville, or she's the representative of Centerville. There was one of our letters for it who lives on Yorktown, and I do believe Yorktown is back in the Centerville neighborhood, but not directly behind it, like West Madison, where Miss Henry lives. And then Katie Zimmerman, y'all saw with Charleston Moves, she was supportive of it because she liked the wide 12-foot multi-use path. But that's, you know, as far as the criteria goes, the fella on Yorktown, that, you know, that would be of the surrounding neighborhood. But I just thought we should.
But
I
not
should
really
mention-
directly. It's, I
No.
think Camp Road separates it. I'm looking on the
Yeah.
map right now.
Yorktown, I think it's
Yeah,
a little
Camp
bit
Road- Camp
further
Road
back.
Camp Road
I think-
separates it.
Does it separate? Well, I think, yeah, I think it actually makes cross camp. I'm not sure, but it's
Yorktown is on the other side of Folly Down Camp, just
not behind it.
And
near
Bellingham.
the school and the church, the Baptist church there, and the RMUE church.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
Sorry, I was looking at the map.
Do you feel like we need more information to think about this more? Yes, Miss Amy.
I would just like to say to the applicant that something that may change our mind maybe is if they go back and try and reconfigure with the current space that they have, and maybe come back and tell us how they tried to do it, show us how they maybe a little bit more on the stormwater stuff, which, you know, is an education for us. You know, we are not, and I am not an engineer, but more information on that, you know, it's maybe we could be swayed to, you know, maybe it would meet the criteria better than what it currently does in my mind, in my opinion.
See, Mr. Wilson just popped his screen open. And I'm wondering if we might need to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss asking the applicant for more information, or is it something that, Bo, you can just talk to us about an open meeting, or let me know if we need to do something with executive?
I don't really think you need an executive session. Primarily addressed to Ms. Fabry on the ability to have that happen, in terms of you have the application before you now, and if it's rejected, there's a lengthy time period of moratorium. And so there really isn't a process to allow that to be dealt with unless you were to continue this until the next hearing. I just didn't want you to think that
Sure.
that could be easily done. Either the applicant could make a motion for good cause shown in response to your question, or you, the board, could.
I think if the applicant does it, though, there's a year waiting period. If they withdraw it for any reason or postpone it, am I not correct in that? I think the board has to postpone, we have to vote to postpone it either to the next meeting or the June meeting. And then they don't have a year waiting period. Am I right on that?
If it is continued, our rules don't mandate that the continuance can come from one side or the other. If a continuance is requested, it can be carried over one time. If it's postponed at this time, it's a year wait, because the request after the filing of the notice and the public hearing notice, that is considered not particularly timely, and then there's a year moratorium. So repeat it, the continuance can be asked for by either side. If there's good cause shown, it can be carried over, until the next meeting to allow for whatever needs to be done. So have I made that clearer, or do you need executive session?
Can I ask Mr. Wilson, can it be carried over further if we ask the applicants if they want more time for what it is we're looking for, or can it, or is it necessarily only the next meeting?
The statute reads carried over. It doesn't specify how long that we can have it carried over. There is another statute that I don't have at my fingertips, which actually may not be relevant if the applicant also agrees to it. In other words, there's a time limit for us to give an opinion for an application, but if the applicant agrees to the extension of time, then that would eliminate that the time limitation you have to rule on the application. I'm sorry, I don't recall exactly what that is. Kristen might know. But that's okay. In other words, you can carry it over at least one time. And if the applicant agrees more than one time.
Okay, I didn't want to get stuck on that. I was just curious because it seems like maybe we might want to ask for further information, and we might want to ask them how long it might take.
I think that'd be appropriate. If you get their request, then it obviates the issue.
What other information would y'all want to request that?
Ms. Fabry?
I think what I stated earlier, which is more information on the stormwater plan, with a brief explanation of, exactly how it's going to handle this increased capacity, and by replacing the detention pond that's currently there and the system that's currently there. And also any attempts to reconfigure the space that they currently have to accommodate the double drive-through, which is already there, but to be able to also handle the parking and online pickup or whatever other needs they have.
Okay.
So I would like to say that if I could wrap my mind around conditions A, B, and C for the double drive, if I could, then we would get then to the issue of the grand tree. And I would at that time be curious to know if there have been other studies done to do other site plans that would not require the removal of the grand tree, but we're not to that variance yet. But so I just wanted to go, but they are tied together and we're looking at that site plan. And I'm listening to what Ms. Fabry says also about, I'm very curious to know if there's some site plan that would that has been studied or would be studied to continue on the existing piece of property. And if they need overflow property, I guess they could lease the next property and put a parking there. I don't know, but these are different ideas, and I do appreciate that they presented what they did, but I'm also listening to what the other board members are saying and just talking with you all. I'll hush.
Okay, thank you.
One thing, I agree with the board. You can ask whatever you want, but let's be fair to these applicants. What you're asking them to do is going to spend money. They're going to go to these people and they're going to have to redraw this. And if they do it and they come back and then we say, oh, but it still doesn't satisfy A because there aren't exceptional circumstances. Let's not do that to these applicants. If you're going to stand by your rejection because A is not satisfied, then what you're requesting is never going to satisfy A. So don't exercise these people. Don't cost them money to come back before us just to reject them again. We need to be consistent and we need to be fair. This is a good business for the town. It's so daggum successful that they sought a variance. If we turn it down, that's fine. But let's be good stewards with our business community here. All right.
Thank you,
I
David.
appreciate that, Mr. Savage. Thank you.
That was going to be my next comment. If whatever they bring back, is it going to change the fact, do they meet the criteria or not? Like you just said, because that's what we have to base our vote on, that we're charged with as BZA members. So, you know, and any other thoughts or ideas?
I'm still hung up by A, B, and C.
Okay. David, you still hung up on A?
Actually, it was C that got me the most. You remember my question was, isn't there already a double drive?
Mm-hmm.
And there is.
Mhm.
And Brooke, I think it was you that brought up that, it appears to be functioning
Mhm.
in some capacity right now. But, I can be swayed on that by the information that's sought by the board.
So I guess the issue before you is, will there be a motion for continuance on behalf of the board? Or are you ready to vote because that information will not affect your opinions regardless of its outcome?
I can't say that any information that I hear might not affect my opinion. I haven't really necessarily decided yet, in the absence of that information, if there is going to be more information.
Well, I guess we can ask is if there's a motion for a continuance, and then if there's a second, and then we can't have two motions on the, well, that would be to continue the motion that we have on the floor. So is there a motion for continuance?
Well, I have one comment. When we started this, there was a question of Ms. Crane that they're currently using the drive-through as a double stack drive-through. It's striped. They're not permanent barriers, but it's striped, and there's use of cones right now, which is basically what they said that they would do. What's not included right now are additional canopies. So if they reconfigured the current space that they have to better utilize, restriping their parking and reconfiguring the drive-through by restriping parking, I don't think it would be an issue for the BZA anymore, based on what Ms. Crane said at the beginning, because they're not in violation of anything according to what she said. Is that correct? Or did I understand that incorrectly, Kristen?
It's just the structures, right?
Right. There's nothing permanent. It's just striping and cones.
Well, technically it's my understanding they've been operating illegally by having the double drive-through. It's not permitted in our ordinance. It's just not it's something that my understanding they started doing with COVID, and now they want to get it permitted and have permanent structures. It's not, maybe the term illegally was too strong. It was just something that they did to, help out with the extra flow of COVID. But there is a painted line, and to me, like I mentioned earlier, that is kind of permanent. So, maybe they didn't know it wasn't permitted until they decided to come for the tree, and then, oh gosh, now we've got to get this other variance as well. I don't know how all that will shake out, but anyway, if that addresses anything of what you said, they still need a permit. I'm sorry, they still need a variance to operate the double drive-through legally, is my understanding. Am I right, Kristen?
I didn't hear it that way.
Okay.
I heard it that they to actually have permanent structures with the canopies and the order boxes is how I was envisioning it. To have, let's just call them an order box, having two order boxes attached to the road. It was my understanding they're not violating what they're doing right now with the portable.
It says only single lane drive-throughs are allowed, period. Unless you're a post office, a bank, or a utility. Multi-lane drive-throughs are only allowed for banks, post office, or utilities.
Chick-fil-A is not a utility?
Really?
I guess it depends on how you look at it. No.
So I might have misheard then.
I would think that would be more like AT&T or, and I don't know why they would need one. But
is that correct, Kristen, that they are running?
I guess it's my interpretation. It's my professional opinion that right now I would consider it a single drive-through with a temporary double drive-through when needed Everything that they have is removable paint. You can paint it over. You can move the sign. You can move the flag. The employees can go inside. That, to me, that's a single drive-through. But I guess, it could be interpreted differently. To me, the requirement is something that was carried over from the ordinances when we became a town. It was the Charleston County ordinance that got carried over, and something that maybe needs to be looked at as far as really the intent of what a double drive-through really is. So, or what the intent of a double drive-through is for.
Right. And if planning commission changed it, and it was adopted by council, this would be a moot point, and we wouldn't be here tonight, and they wouldn't be here asking for this variance. We would just be talking about the tree if they wanted to do this site plan. So that's kind of where we are.
Well, I sort of thought similar to Ms. Hip as well, because I think we can all agree that if somebody calls foul on what they're presently doing, and they have to go back to that single line, we're in a mess.
We are.
That changes everything.
Yeah, we're in a traffic mess. We're in a safety mess. I think category number A is then satisfied. I think category C is then satisfied as well. So, I don't know what we do here, but I know that there's people listening, and somebody that may not like Chick-fil-A calls foul, and then we're in a big mess.
So is what they're doing right now considered a double drive-through? I know that Kristen said in her professional opinion, it's portable and can be removed, but I guess we need to set that definition, because that really changes the way the whole thing is perceived.
I think Mr. Savage just changed the way I perceive things.
Yeah.
How do you feel about me perhaps making a motion for continuance then, or maybe go into executive session, or?
I think
because we don't want to make anything worse. We absolutely do not want to make anything worse.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're only talking now about the idea of double drive. We're not talking about the trees. We're talking about the double drive, whether they get a double drive. That's all.
Correct.
Whether or not what they're doing right now is considered a double drive, I think is really the question,
Well,
the true
yeah,
question. Because in my mind, adding another order box and a canopy and, putting structures in, that was what I was having a hard time justifying all of that being done, because they seem to be doing just fine right now. However, if what we decide, if what we're hearing is what they're doing right now is in fact a violation, then that actually becomes a bigger issue.
I think the difference there is that's where the banking and utilities come in, is because when you go to a bank, there's a permanent structure in the drive-through for the teller box to send the tube and all of that stuff. There are, concrete lanes, concrete barriers, boxes there that aren't at Chick-fil-A now. And same thing with the utility.
That's a good
the same
point.
thing. And
That's
so
a good
everything
point.
here is temporary, like Kristen said.
Yep. Good point.
What does a continuance involve?
Well, we would make a motion, someone would make a motion and a second, and we would vote on it, and then we would bring it back at our next meeting.
And we would do that for the idea of the double drive at this point.
That is correct. That would be for this case.
Right.
We still have one more to go.
Right.
So how does everyone feel about that? Mr. Savage, did you want to make a motion? Would you, if anyone at any time feels the need?
I'll make a motion to, I can't recall if it's continue or carry over, but whatever the term Mr. Wilson used, That's the motion that I make. Is it continue or carry over, Bo?
Continue under your code section. You could also make that, not to complicate matters, but you could also make the motion to continue the tree removal issue, so you deal with both at the same time.
That's a great idea.
Is there a way to figure out, I guess, the hang up I'm having with what constitutes a double drive situation if what they're doing is in violation? Is there a way to figure that out? Kristen or Bo?
I could give you an opinion on it pretty quickly, but granted, that kind of caught me by surprise, so hadn't really examined.
I think that you might want to examine it, right?
I would be glad to. It won't take much.
Would that be correct, Brooke?
Absolutely. So
I just would like to, I want to know more, because I was really hung up for a really long time on ABC. And then the minute you said that about that they're currently operating double drive, I mean, that changed everything. So anyway, I would love to.
The idea of being stuck on Folly Road, like I have been before, does remind me that this is an unusual condition. Just to get into Chick-fil-A.
That's a very good point.
So can you do the continuant or the carryover with the request that Bo do the research?
Yes, that would be one of the reasons we will continue it. But if there are other questions for the applicant, I would assume we would want to include that so they can bring back any other further information we need as well. Don't y'all think?
Well, okay, so I would suggest that we continue both of the cases, so that we hear them at the same time. But I would also suggest just that we would be curious. I would be curious to know if there was some alternate site plan that does not destroy the grand tree.
That was one of my things as well.
That's into the next variance. We haven't really gotten there, but if we're going to discuss them and defer them both or continue them both, then I would really like to know, because that's for your engineer, but I believe that there may be some way to do that. And my follow-up question to that would be, do you really need all those parking spaces? Or can you?
And then are they contingent upon one another? I mean, if the tree gets denied, does the double drive still happen, or vice versa?
Well,
a moot point.
I could be fine with the double drive, but not with the tree, or maybe the other way around. I don't know yet, because I haven't just completely decided. Because, like I said, depending on what I hear, I can change my opinion. Because until I've heard it all, and Mr. Savage has already succeeded in doing that once.
So let me try to summarize this, and please feel free to change it or add to it or take away from it. So we would want to ask the applicant to relook at the site plan, to possibly save the tree, work things out differently, and then also to give us more clarification on the drainage and the retention pond for the effect on the surrounding neighborhood. Is that correct?
I think
Amy?
so.
And is the additional parking needed? Wasn't that Corey's question?
I think Corey and I think Roy touched on it too. Is all the additional parking needed? Okay. And also Bo will get us a definition of a double drive-through. So that would be something Bo will work on for us. Do we want to, our next meeting would be, if this passes, I'll just mention this, our next meeting typically would be May 17th. If that's enough time, we do not have a case for that date at this time. And the time has passed, so we were not going to have a case in May. If y'all wanted to continue it till then, we could. If you think the applicant would need more time, maybe we should ask them. We do have a meeting in June. Or or we could, even if they needed till July. Can we break protocol here and ask the applicant, you've been hearing our discussion. If you're willing to address these issues that we have for a continuance, if the board approves a continuance, how many months would you want to come back next month? I think Bo said he could get his piece pretty quickly. Can you get us, some information regarding potentially saving the tree, more info on the retention pond, and then do you really, possibly revising the parking?
May I speak?
Yes, please speak and answer that.
The key is the time. We're in agreement about the continuation, but we're not sure when we have to get the package back in for the May 17th continuance meeting. So
I see.
that
To have
concerns
it
me.
posted.
I'm concerned that we might need to go to the June meeting to give us a little bit more time so we can meet the deadline for that June meeting, which I believe is 2 or 3 weeks before the actual meeting. I don't have the schedule in front of me. Kristen can probably tell us, but to meet the deadline for the 17th meeting is pretty short time.
Sure.
Is it
Now,
possible?
actually, you're right. We've already passed the May time. I'm sorry. It's been a long day, so I guess it wouldn't meet. Is that right, Kristen?
We'll have
Would
to
June
figure
work?
out when we can come back and maybe work that out with Kristen, depending on to what degree we have to do engineering or research, that kind of thing.
Okay.
We would like to offer that to the board.
Maybe we can do it without specifically setting a date. Are y'all in agreement with that? And we will just continue it to a future meeting, and Kristen can let us know after working with you on when to get that information back. Is our board members in agreement with that? If everyone votes if it's voted to approve. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding. Okay. So I believe Mr. Savage made a motion to continue this case number.
Okay, right.
As a point of clarification, that would be the continuance of both requests. Is that correct?
Yes, we will continue. We're going to put a motion forth, I believe, to continue both cases. Is that what you wanted to do, Mr. Savage? Okay, I will second that. Any discussion on continuing? Okay, Francis, would you take a roll call vote on that, please?
Commissioner Fabry,
Aye.
Commissioner Hip,
Aye.
Vice Chair Savage,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Chairwoman Lyon.
Aye. So the motion carries. We will continue both cases. The double driveway case, we are continuing with a motion on the floor to approve, and that will continue until we come back and address what we've asked the applicant to get. Francis, do you need me to repeat all that again, or did you get it? We can.
I think I've got it all.
Okay, good. Very good. Well, thank y'all so much for being so thoughtful, and hopefully we can get the information that we need to address it and be fair and look at all the evidence. So we do not have a meeting on May 17th. We will have one in June, likely. I believe there was an applicant that didn't quite have everything together for the May meeting, so that one probably will be coming forward in June, but we'll find out more before then. I would like to thank the staff very much. Thank the applicant for coming and all their information, and I'd like to thank all the people in the public who took their time to come out and speak and write letters and emails and support and opposition. And we will keep everyone posted on when the next meeting will be. So if there is no further, does anyone else have anything?
I'm sorry, Brooke, do you need to withdraw your motion to approve that we started with discussion?
I believe we just continue it to the next meeting.
Okay,
And we
so
pick
we're
up
just
where we
tabling.
came off. Yep, we're basically tabling it. Yep, that's why I stated it, that we, had that on the floor and we would be bringing it back. But thank you for clarifying that. I know this is a little different than we've done things. Yep, no worries there. Thank you. So
All
if
right,
there's
thanks.
nothing else, this meeting stands adjourned. Thank y'all so much.